Help me reach 1,000 subscribes. Support the video with a like and leave your thoughts in the comments. I read every comment. Thanks. I said I wasn't leaving for good. That was the lie I told myself as much as I told him. I stood in the doorway with my overnight bag, trying to make it look small, temporary, harmless. Just a pause, I said. Just a few days to breathe. Mark nodded like a man who understood space, but his eyes were already somewhere else, calculating, distant, like he'd been waiting for this moment longer than I realized. We'd been married 9 years. Not the loud kind of broken marriage. No screaming matches. No holes punching walls. Just erosion. Quiet mornings where he barely looked up from his phone. Dinners eaten side by side in silence. Nights where his body turned away from mine, like it belonged to someone else. I used to tell myself this was what long-term love looked like. Comfort, stability, grown-up life. But comfort shouldn't feel like loneliness. I met Mark when I was 26. He was steady, reliable, the kind of man my parents immediately trusted. Accountant, organized, predictable. After years of dating men who burned bright and disappeared fast, Mark felt safe. He built a life around routines and rules, and I fit into them easily at first. Or maybe I learned to. The shift didn't happen all at once. It never does. It started with small corrections. How I spent money. How often I saw my friends. Which dresses were appropriate. He said it calmly, reasonably, always framed as concern. I didn't notice the cage forming, because the bars were padded with logic. By year 7, I felt like a guest in my own house. The walls were neutral, the furniture chosen for resale value, not comfort. Even my laughter felt out of place. When I brought up therapy, Mark said we didn't need strangers poking into our marriage. When I said I felt unseen, he replied with a spreadsheet of everything he provided. Mortgage, insurance, vacations, as if love was a transaction already settled. The night I packed the bag, nothing dramatic happened. That should have been my first warning. We were in the kitchen. He was loading the dishwasher with surgical precision. I said, I think I need a few days away. He didn't ask why, didn't argue, just said, do what you need to do. Too calm, too easy. I stayed with my sister, Claire, across town. Her apartment smelled like coffee and candles and life. The first night, I slept 10 hours straight. No tension in my shoulders. No heaviness in my chest. I told myself this proved I was right. That space would help. That Mark would miss me. That we'd talk things through like adults and reset something that had gone wrong. On the second day, I texted him. Just checking in. He replied an hour later. Hope you're okay. No heart emoji. No question mark. I ignored the knot forming in my stomach. By day 3, my phone stopped lighting up entirely. I tried calling. Straight to voicemail. I told myself he was busy. Mark was always busy. But that night, Claire showed me something that made my hands go cold. A mutual friend had posted photos from a dinner party. Mark was there, smiling, relaxed, one arm slung casually around a woman I didn't recognize. I confronted him the next morning. He answered this time. His voice was calm, almost gentle. You said you needed space, he told me. I assumed you meant it. I asked about the woman. He paused, just long enough to feel intentional. That's not your concern anymore. That was the moment I realized something had shifted beneath my feet. I wasn't stepping away from a marriage. I was being replaced inside it. Still, I told myself I could go home. That I'd left clothes there, memories, a life. That whatever this was, it wasn't final. On the 5th day, I drove back. Same street, same house. But the locks didn't recognize my key anymore. I stood there longer than I should have. Turning the key again like repetition might change reality. Through the window, I saw movement. Boxes stacked where our photos used to be. My coat gone from the hook. Even the welcome mat replaced. My phone buzzed. A message from Mark. We need boundaries now. Please don't come by unannounced. In that instant, the truth landed with brutal clarity. I hadn't taken a break. I'd given him permission, and he had already rewritten our ending without asking me first. I stayed in the car for a long time, gripping the steering wheel, staring at the front door as if it might open for me if I willed it hard enough. But it didn't. Inside, Mark was rearranging the life we had built together, methodically, deliberately, as if I had never existed. My stomach churned with disbelief, anger, and a strange, heavy sadness I couldn't name. I wanted to knock, to scream, to demand answers. Instead, I exhaled and pressed the key to lock the car doors. He had made sure I couldn't come back. I called Claire. My voice shook as I told her what happened. She didn't sugarcoat it. He's gone, and he didn't just leave space. He erased you. That's not normal, it's intentional. Her words hurt more than the sight of the empty living room. But I couldn't deny their truth. Mark had always been organized, precise, controlling in ways I excused as stability. Now I saw the full extent. He had not only replaced my presence, but had stripped my access to the home, our routines, our life together. That night, I stayed at Claire's, unable to sleep. Memories flickered like faulty lights. Our first apartment, the birthday dinners, the lazy Sunday mornings. I realized I had lived in a carefully constructed illusion, mistaking calm consistency for love, obedience for connection. And in my naivety, I hadn't seen the quiet erosion of my place in his world. The next morning, I started picking up pieces of my independence. I called my bank, changed my passwords, closed accounts that Mark could control without my consent. Every call, every number I recited, felt like reclaiming a fragment of myself. It was tedious, infuriating, humiliating, but it was mine. With each action, the anger simmered beneath the surface, mingled with a newfound clarity. He had made a choice. I was making mine. Over the following week, I learned more about what had happened while I was away. Friends revealed that Mark had been inviting people over, showing off his new arrangement as if it were an accomplishment. The woman from the dinner party was not new at all. She had been appearing gradually, under the guise of casual lunches, coffee meetings, small gatherings where I never noticed because I assumed their interactions were innocent. And now she had a place in our home. My home. Their shared life had begun the moment I had stepped outside, naively believing a few days would restore balance. I confronted him, not in person, not over phone, but through a carefully worded email. I didn't ask for apologies or explanations. I stated my boundaries, my intentions to reclaim financial and emotional control over what was mine. I reminded him that a home is more than walls and furniture. It is safety, respect, and mutual recognition. I didn't receive a reply. Of course not. Silence was always his weapon, and now it served as the confirmation I needed. He had severed the connection entirely. Months passed. I moved into a small apartment, decorated it myself, filled it with books and plants. A life reclaimed one object at a time. I felt hollow at first, then lighter. My phone no longer buzzed with messages from Mark, but my mornings carried a strange liberation I hadn't anticipated. I could breathe without checking if my movements would disrupt him. I could speak without fear of judgment. I could exist without invisibility, cloaking me like a second skin. It was terrifying and exhilarating all at once. Then one evening, Mark called. Not a text, not a message through mutual friends, him. His voice was measured, calm, almost eerily polite. "I hope you're doing well," he said. That was it. Nothing more. No admission, no remorse, no justification. I felt my chest tighten and relax at the same time. He had finally acknowledged my existence outside of his control, but not in the way I ever needed. This call wasn't reconciliation. It was a confirmation that I was no longer tethered to him. I hung up and smiled, a quiet, small, victorious smile. For the first time, I recognized that leaving wasn't about abandoning our marriage. It was about reclaiming myself. I had underestimated the power of boundaries, the strength in choosing one's own life. He had made sure I couldn't come back, but that, ironically, was the gift I needed. Without his manipulation, his calculated calm, I would not have discovered the depth of my own resilience. By the end of that year, I had rebuilt more than just a home. I had rebuilt a life. I traveled for the first time without a schedule in mind. I reconnected with friends I had neglected for years. I laughed freely again, not cautiously, not as a quiet attempt to fit into his world, but as me, fully, unapologetically. The way what I had lost still lingered in quiet moments, but it no longer defined me. Mark's certainty, his control, his deliberate erasure had failed in the only way that mattered. It had freed me. Sometimes I think about him, and I am not consumed by anger or bitterness, though it would be justified. I think about how carefully he planned to make me vanish, and how completely I survived it. I think about the life I could have lived if I hadn't hesitated, if I hadn't excused his coldness as practicality. And I smile, because I now understand the most important truth. Leaving wasn't the end. It was the beginning.